My name is Christopher Yang, and I am the Systems Administrator for Health and Life Organization. Health and Life Organization is a FQHC that started back in 2010. We first started serving the underserved Southeast Asian community, primarily the Hmong, Laotian, and a few others. From there, we expanded over to the Mexican American, Armenian, Russian communities, providing them with translation services and other services that weren't readily available to them at the time. Halo has around 10 sites, including a data center in downtown Sacramento. Between all 10 sites, we have roughly about 275 employees. A few of them are contractors, most of them are employees. On our site, between all 10 sites, we have roughly about 1,200 machines, between the computers, phones, printers, scanners. We have a fairly small IT crew, but we are able to manage most of that through the help of MetaTab and IMS. Prior to MGHosting, we had 4 Dell Blade servers and 3 Dell stand-up servers. We had a lot of issues because the servers were already out of date by the time I came into the company. We were able to kind of run IMS through RDP. The users would suffer from, resource usage. There's just too many users trying to access the database at the same time. So we would see a lot of memory leaking and other problems that would cause RDP to shut down, or Windows to shut down services, or just the servers themselves would just completely lock up and just reboot themselves. Page file was also a huge problem, but with MGHosting and moving everything to the cloud, we were able to circumvent a lot of the resource usage, and we were able to move a lot of that stress on our network up to MGHosting, and so we kept all of our domain controllers and everything else on site, and we're able to relieve a lot of that stress off of those devices. In attempts to future-proof Halo, and as we have been growing significantly over the last 5 years, when I started, we only had 3 sites. Today, 5 years later, we have 10. So in order to future-proof things and make things work a lot better, cloud services were the obvious solution. It would be too prohibitively expensive to create our own data center to host all of our patient data. So we ended up looking for a cloud solution. The obvious one was Azure, since we were already on on Microsoft Windows and Office 365 and so forth. Being at FQHC, we got a massive discount for using that. However, managing all that by myself would have been a nightmare. It is too much work and too much stuff out of my hands that I can't really control. So we turned to MetaTab and MGHosting to try to find a better solution. We were provided with one, and it does work significantly better and relieves a lot of the work out of my hands, and putting it onto them so that they can deal with it so that I don't have to. One of the problems with migration is how much time it takes and how much of a pain it is to have to figure out ways to slip in time when you can make changes, move data, move equipment, move appliances, and still keep the business functioning and not have to shut everybody down. Having 10 sites makes that really, really, really difficult, but moving everything over with MGHosting and with MetaTab made it a lot simpler. We were able to migrate our entire database in the course of the weekend, and I didn't have to shut the whole entire network down. I didn't have to shut down the whole database. I didn't have to shut down the business. Once we migrated everything over, it was a simple matter of giving each site their own set of logins, and one by one, we moved each site over. Then we were able to incrementally change the database on the cloud using what they were doing during the day. And it was very, very simple and very, very painless. So before we migrated to MGHosting, every day, or at almost to the T at 7:45 a.m., I would get a text message, a phone call, or something from someone asking me, hey, is IMS running? IMS is slow. What's going on with the servers? I can't log in. Something along those lines. And all of it was because of just the resource drain on my domain controllers. After moving over to MGHosting, I am now able to sleep in the mornings. Actually have, my morning to myself. I'm able to actually eat breakfast and have coffee, and it is the small delight that I absolutely treasure so much because of this. Any problem that they have has been circumvented simply just by relieving the stress off the domain controllers. We were able to now do everything through MGHosting, and if there is an issue, everyone knows now how easily it is to just contact MGHosting support services to have their issues worked with. But at the moment, all the issues are very small, little transitional things like packet loss and things like that we can't really solve, as that's just an internet issue, a problem on itself. If I could change one thing about the migration process, it would probably just be a better implementation of our site-to-site rollover for the migration for each site. It was a little bit slower than I wanted it to be, but that's primarily just a problem with having to work with almost 300 people and getting them to change their methods of logging in into stuff. If I had any advice for other IT departments about moving up to the cloud, if your company can afford to have its own data center, that would obviously be better for HIPAA regulations, for data regulations, and data retainment, backup, disaster recovery, and so on and so forth. Because it's in your hands and it's a lot easier for you to handle, and there's less blame to go around. However, if you can't, I would highly recommend moving everything to the cloud. It's the future. It's the only way to operate here on forward. Having your own data center is just so expensive, and unless you can afford that, or if you have the resources for it, it's just not viable. Moving up to the cloud makes everything so much easier for you. It relieves the stress off of your department of having to deal with all the little things that servers are very much prone to do, and it's not on you anymore. All those little problems with having to deal with a hard drive going out, or a VM not spinning up, or whatever, that's not your problem anymore. That saves you a lot. It is like having an entire virtual department for yourself, and they just handle all of it for you, and it just makes your life a lot easier. If I had to describe MGHosting in one word, I would probably describe it as easy. It has just made my job a lot easier to go with MGHosting. I don't have to deal with so much little things that I probably shouldn't have to anymore, and it just makes life easier.